up 0 for 2, and then guys. And good evening. Welcome to the University of Dubuque football show here this week from Chalmers Field on the campus of the University of Dubuque. I'm Tim Larry, and we'll have head coach Ryan Myeri join us here in just a moment as we talk about the Spartans' latest game that they played and look ahead to what will be the next game on the schedule coming up this Saturday, the next home game here at Chalmers Field as they continue on in American Rivers Conference play and take on Buena Vista coming up this Saturday. But this past Saturday, the Spartans traveled to top 10 ranked Wartburg and didn't come up with the way they wanted to. The Knights winning 33-7 in that ball game, and bringing Coach Myeri right now. And Coach, as many American Rivers Conference teams have found out, tough place to play when you play at Wartburg, and even if you play them at home. You know, they've been incredibly tough. I think they set a record with the most wins in a row against conference opponents with that victory over you. So, I mean, that speaks for itself, what they've been able to do.
Yeah, they got a really well-established program, and Coach Winter and their staff, they do a great job. And year in and year out, they're just kind of in a reload deal. You know, they've been so successful. You know, they got a ton of juniors and seniors, and in the last couple of years, they've been playing with a lot of fifth-year talent. And you know, when you get grown men like that have been developed and gone through the weight room and all that training and been in the system for a while, like, you know, it's kind of plug and play for them, and they're a really tough program.
Well, let's talk about how this game played out a little bit. You got into a little bit of a hole early, and that's tough to do against a team like Wartburg. They got a score early, then unfortunately a block punt, a scoop and score there, and right away you're down 14-0. So you knew that was going to be tough to come back from. But you know, talk about the situation at that point.
Yeah, it was just really disappointing. Like, in all three phases of the game, you know, we came out, we didn't perform our best. They go down and score right away. We have a chance to answer. In fact, the first play of the game, we had something scripted up really good, and you know, we just had a miscue on it, and it could have been a 75-yard touchdown the first play of the game, and that's frustrating. And the second play, we had a miscue. Our right guard doesn't block who he's supposed to, and then the third play, we don't read it right in our progression to pass game, and you have 3 plays in a row that you have a chance to be successful, and we don't do the right things. And you know, we got a guy here, a guy there, not doing the right stuff on the punt block. You know, we've protected it well all year. They did a standard pressure up the middle. We have our guys in the middle there for that. And instead of striking and delivering the punch, we lowered our shoulder, and the guy was able to get his hand up and block the ball. And, you know, we gave up a field goal, fake field goal for a touchdown, and we have guys assigned to cover certain people, and they were lax in it, just expecting it to be a field goal, and guys ran right by. And, it's just those disciplined things and guys being really locked in and engaged in what their responsibilities are. And when you're playing a great opponent, you can't afford to have one guy screw up here, one guy screw up there. Your execution's got to be 100%. And, we just weren't there on Saturday.
I think we've talked about this on this show maybe before. Statistically, when you give up a big play like a punt block for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown, those are plays that can swing the momentum against any opponent.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, again, like for a great opponent, so like you bury yourself in a hole against an opponent that doesn't give up a whole lot defensively. So now you're kind of scrambling to try to get back in the game and give yourself a chance. And, we just dug ourselves too big of a hole to do that against a great team. And at the same time, like these are things that we got to evaluate as a coaching staff, like what we're doing, how we're doing it, making sure that we're putting our guys in the best position, have our best guys in those positions to be successful. And then also our players being accountable to their responsibilities and what they're doing.
They scored again to start the second quarter, another touchdown, and that put you down 28-0. But then, your team had a response right away. So, a little light at that time. Talk about that.
Yeah, we had a couple good strikes. Khalif Freeman had a good series there. We hit him with 2 long passes, but consecutive plays, actually. We had like probably a 30-yard completion, and then he had a long touchdown after that. And kind of got us some momentum. We actually got the ball back again right before the half, drove all the way down and didn't score, and that could have cut the lead down a little bit to make it 31-14. And then we're getting the ball to start the half, so now you got a chance to maybe get a 14-point swing in that for like the final 4 and the first 4 minutes of the second half. And and we actually did have a good drive out of the second half. We drove down again. We didn't get any points out of it, and you can't do that against a great football team. In that game, you probably have to score 24, 27 points on offense, to give yourself a chance to be, victorious, and 7 points just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, that was, you're talking about a couple of double-digit drives that you had there at the end of the second quarter, like you said, then the start of the third, and then you had another long one in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, frustrating to not be able to get points out of those, but your defense was able to keep you in the game. I know one thing you were happy with is 31-7 ball game. A couple of blocked field goals. Wartburg got a chance to score a couple of more times, and so your special teams come up big there.
Yeah, and that's where we got to complement each other. The first half defense was struggling a little bit. Like giving up some plays and some scores, and then we had 2 scores that were on special teams, so out of their control, other than the field goal. And offensively, when they're scoring, we got to keep us in the game and be complementary. So if we're giving stuff up on defense, we got to execute on offense, and vice versa. Defense stiffened up in the second half, and then offensively, we weren't scoring to complement that. And that was kind of the tale of the game. Like, you can look at the statistics, and offensively, if you just look at the numbers, we perform better against their defense than I think anybody that they've played so far, if not equal to. I think Simpson might have ended with the same yardage. And we were 0 for 2 in the red zone, and those are critical situations, and you got to be able to execute down there against a great football team. But at the end of the day, you got to score points. Points win, so yardage doesn't.
Yeah, 324 yards offense against a defense that now is giving up 238 yards per game, and like I said, put some nice drives together there. Back to those 2 blocked field goals. 2 guys that have a motor that go all the time for you, Josiah Perez and also Chris Hicks Davenport. They both made those blocks.
Yeah, they did a great job, and we got some really good push. And then, Josiah is a long guy, so he gets enough push and gets his arms up. He's got a great shot at those. And it was kind of a weird one when we had the block. It kind of rolled to the 1, and there was some, conflict there, from my perspective, one of their guys picked the ball up and went in the end zone. So to me, on a punt, if you did that as a touchback, so it was just some confusion there, if it was a touchback or not, and it ended up getting placed at the 1. So that's how their lone 2 points of the second half was that the safety there.
Well, we talked about you having some long drives. The second half, not much scoring going on, just a safety for Wartburg in that second half. They had some long drives that they put together, but your defense able to stiffen up. On the The troubling thing for you had to be how long they had the ball for the fourth quarter. It was tough to get the ball back to get any offense going. I think they had it for 11 or 12 minutes.
Yeah, they kind of grinded things out, and obviously when you're down that much and you're able to do that on the opposite side of the ball as an offense and control the football, if you possess the football, you got a great chance to win, and they were able to do that with a big lead. And we certainly got to keep working to get ourselves off the field. And we had a lot of opportunities to make tackles and make those plays. We missed a decent amount of tackles in the game, so we got to keep working on that stuff. And when we get our opportunities, make those things happen and get ourselves off the field.
Did have the most yards passing against them so far for an opponent this year, 279 yards, a touchdown, couple interceptions. You had an interception as well and gave up 3 sacks, but you had 3 sacks as well.
Yeah, defense, like I said, in spurts, like we played really well, and especially in the second half. And we need to still try to figure out how we're going to play a complete football game and complementary football. And that's what's been disappointing right now is, like, I believe in our guys. Our staff believes in our guys. We got a great team, and we're not always displaying that. We got to keep working our butts off to get that displayed.
As far as individuals receiving-wise, we've talked about Khalif Freeman, and he had, his typical day this year, 115 yards receiving. Another guy, though, that's really stepping up, Caden Phillips. Talk about his play so far this season, and particularly in that game, he caught 8 passes, 60 yards.
Yeah, so we've been kind of working a number of different guys. With Blake's injury, we're working to fill that void, and we've been playing DJ Jackson, Kyle Harper. We've had a couple other guys step in, and KP, or Caden Phillips, we call him KP. He's a freshman for us, and he's done a really good job in our JV games and kind of rising to the occasion. So, yeah, he stepped in, filled in, and made some really good plays for us down the stretch, and it was good to see that, especially from a young guy in a big game. The moment wasn't too big for him.
A couple other guys defensively. Jacob Garlick, he's been consistent this year, but he had 7 tackles, had 1.5 of those 3 sacks. And also Ben Egan got his, I think, first interception of the season.
Yeah, that was a big interception, too. It was right after the safety, and it gave us good field position. And that was another one, like, offensively, we didn't capitalize on that short field. But that was a big play for us, kind of swung momentum back. It was a little frustrating after the safety, and he did a good job of ball got overthrown a little bit. He was in great position, got a nice pick out of it, and then got a really good return. And gave us good field position. He did really well. Jacob Garlick did well. A.J. Rashid was really well. I mean, a number of those guys had good games. It just wasn't all the time. We had spurts where we were playing that way, and we need to play all the time, especially in a big game like that.
So you played the top 2 teams in the American Rivers Conference, and, it really sounds like, if you can fix mistakes here and there, I mean, you're going to be closer with these opponents or having a chance to win these games.
Yeah, we got to keep our focus on today, and what's happened in those previous games, we got to take from them the good and the bad, and keep sharpening the good stuff, and then getting better at the stuff that we're not doing so well, especially like we talked about with tackling, missed assignments, protection. We talk like in terms of special teams and stuff, making sure we're doing the right things and having the right people in those spots so we can be successful, and we keep stacking those opportunities, and then our practices together, we're going to keep building and growing a strong program.
Injury-wise, did you come out okay on Saturday?
Yeah, we did. We actually came out pretty well. We haven't got full feedback yet. Like, we got a couple of guys that are nicked up, so we'll know a little bit more as the week goes on. Our tight end, Matt Glennon, is a big one, so we're kind of keeping an eye on that and see how that turns out. So he's got some meetings with the team doctor and then with our trainers.
One thing I had circled here before we go, 5 penalties, 39 yards. You can probably live with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a big improvement for us. We talk about discipline. We got to be disciplined in a number of areas, though. But that was good to see. We didn't have a lot of, in terms of self-inflicted type wounds with false starts and holdings. We had a couple of critical holdings down in the red area that took us out from like the 2-yard range. Those are things we got to keep cleaning up, and some technique stuff that we got to fix, but also just me coaching Joey on when we can escape the pocket and stuff, because sometimes we do it and we do it a little too soon, or we do it when a guy's in a position that we shouldn't release out, and that's what leads to holding calls. So those are things we got to keep coaching up and teaching our guys, like when and where to escape.
Before we finish up with the Wartburg contest, anything else you want to mention about this past Saturday?
I'm just really proud of our guys. You know, we got to keep sticking together. You know, we're all in this thing together. It's one group and one mind and one heart, and we just got to keep banding together, trusting the process, and keep fighting.
So you said at 2-4 right now, 2-2 in conference play, and the Buena Vista Beavers will be coming up next on the schedule. We'll talk about them coming up here in just a moment. And also a little bit later on, we're going to hear from Spartan wide receiver Blake Heffron and check in with him on his progress from his scary injury of just a few weeks ago. So we'll check in with him. We're going to be glad to hear from him, and we'll get your take on Blake here before we do that. But we'll talk about the Buena Vista game coming up when we return. This is the UD Football Show here on UDSpartans.com. And we're back here on this Monday evening on the UD Football Show here on UDSpartans.com. And this is the location where you can watch this Saturday's contest when the Spartans take on the Buena Vista Beavers here at Chalmers Field. Hopefully you can come and support the Spartans. That's one thing, Coach. I mean, for all the home games, there have been some unbelievable crowds here at Chalmers Field.
Yeah, and we expect that to be the same this week. One correction with the start time, it's at 2 p.m. this week. I think everything is showing 1 p.m., but the actual start time for this game is at 2 p.m. We do expect a great crowd. There's a couple other home events on campus, which is always draws more people, so that's exciting. So we adjusted the start time just because we have a number of other competitions on campus.
Thanks for letting me know. I didn't want to show up at halftime. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. So 2 o'clock kickoff here at Chalmers Field. So make sure you're here if you can be here to support the Spartans. The second to last home game of the season as they welcome in Buena Vista. But, Coach, let's talk about Buena Vista a little bit. They're coming off their first conference win. They beat Luther 31-7 this past Saturday in Storm Lake. And first thing that jumps out is they really ran the ball very effectively.
Yeah, and they're a much improved football team from last year. Coach has done a great job developing their program, and we really have no easy games in our league. I really believe that. The American Rivers Conference is tough, and our guys got to come and be prepared for the game, and they're much improved in all areas. Offensively, they got a couple transfer guys that have come in. Their quarterback, they have a running back that transferred in. They're both really talented. Their offensive line looks bigger and more improved, more athletic. And defensively as well, they got a couple transfers in on defense. They got an outside linebacker that's a transfer from South Dakota. And they got their corner, who I believe is one of the best guys in our league, number 11. He's been there he's a senior this year, but he's been starting there for pretty much since he was a freshman. He's really talented, athletic, and they got a transfer D lineman and stuff. So they got a lot of talent in all phases of the game, and, we're going to have to bring our best.
They're averaging 305 yards offense, giving up 355, but 225 of that per game on the ground. And it's sort of interesting. You look at their stats; they're number 1 in pass defense, but number 9 in the run defense. So, is it that teams are finding out that they can really run against Buena Vista, so they're not throwing it as much?
Yeah, I mean, that might be so, but a lot of teams that they play are kind of run first type teams. So, that's kind of what they. You look at I should say traditionally Co is a run-first team, but this year they've been opening up more. Their pass game has been pretty impressive. So, and looking at Simpson, they're a very balanced offense. And I think when you start getting the ground game going and you feel like that's where you can control things, like obviously you're going to start to lean towards that. So I think Benedictine, when they played early in the season, they're very run first. So they were going to run the ball majority of the time anyways. And I just think it's kind of like the team and what they're made of. And, once you start generating something in one area, you typically stick with that until you have to get out of it.
The losses have been to Coe and Simpson in conference play, beat Wisconsin Lutheran, I believe, in their non-conference win, and they defeated Luther, as we talked about this past Saturday. So with this team coming in, your mindset, or you thinking about anything differently offensively? You'd like to try to establish that ground game a little bit more, I'm sure, and that's something that's come along.
Yeah, the most important thing is to be as balanced of an attack as you can, because it helps the other counterpart. So if you can run the ball effectively, that helps the pass game. And, if you can spread some things out and pass the ball well, that maybe create some creases for the run game. So as balanced as we can be. But whatever the game calls for, that the opponent that we're playing is kind of going to dictate what we decide to do as we go and progress through the game. And then also, more importantly for us now, is like looking at who we can get to do the right things at the right time and play into our strengths. And that's an important thing. And so that's what we got to build around this week, and that's where our focus is going to be.
Last year, you did win out there 28-14 and have won 6 in a row in that series. But new year, a new game. They're going to be fired up after getting their first conference win. So, you're battling to try to stay in the upper half of the conference.
Yeah, that's important to us. And, this game is important for us, we got to come together and gel together and execute at a higher level than what we've been doing. And that's what our focus is going to be in practice. We'll tinker with some things in practice to try to generate some of that stuff and help our guys get off to a faster start than what we have been in the last couple of games. But then also have some stuff where we find a way to finish games. And that's important for us to do during practice so we can simulate that for Saturday.
Coach Myeri, any final thoughts on the Buena Vista game?
No, I mean, we just got to show up. And it starts tomorrow. Like when we show up for practice tomorrow, we got to play tomorrow as if it's the game and play at a high level at practice and prepare the right way. And then that way Saturday we can just let it loose and have fun.
2:00 kickoff here at Chalmers Field. So we'll look forward to broadcasting that game here on udspartans.com. But Coach, before we let you go, the next guest we're going to have in the third segment of the program is Blake Heffron, and we've talked about him a little bit already in previous weeks, but. Just a scary situation for an injury, nothing that you ever want to see anybody go through. But Blake's here to tell his story a little bit, and I know you can't say enough about that young man.
Yeah, he's a son to me, and what I would say is if anyone had to go through it, he's the guy to go through it because that's an example right here is that he's here today to be able to be on the show, and I look at him as the Wolverine now. He's got super. Powers to regenerate his body, and it's just been amazing to see in the way he carries himself and goes. It's not really changed how his daily process is. He's a great leader. He's been the heartbeat of our program, and he still does that. He travels to the games with us, and he's coaching guys up, and he's still in the mix of things and trying to fit into a new role that he might have now. And I wouldn't expect any different from him.
We'll look forward to hearing from the Wolverine coming up here in just a moment. Coach, good luck. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Tim.
All right, that's Coach Ryan Myeri, head coach of the University of Dubuque Spartan football team, and Blake Heffron will come over and join us here in just a moment on the UD Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri. Back in a moment. All right, we're back on the UD Football Show here on udspartans.com. And right now we're going to talk with Blake Heffron, sophomore at the University of Dubuque, wideout for the Spartans. And Blake, it is great to have you here this evening. Thanks a lot for coming on the program.
Of course. Thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be here.
Well, excellent news. Well, I mean, you're a living, breathing example right here, the miracle of the power of prayer. I mean, I firmly believe in that, and they're chalking this up to a miracle that you're here tonight and able to talk with us. And what scary experience! I guess let's go back a little bit, if you don't mind, back to September 27th. What do you remember? I mean, do you remember anything about that day?
Yeah, so I remember the whole game. I remember the pregame. I remember the exact play that we ran. It was actually called expand drip. I remember reading the linebacker. I remember crossing his face, catching the ball, and then hitting the ground and being like, man, like this hit was different. And not necessarily the hit, but once I hit the ground, I was like, man, this is different. Ran off the sideline. I remember taking a knee, be like, my head really hurts this time. Like, this is no joke. I ran to the bench, sat on the bench. I had a trainer come put over like a water towel, put on my head. I was like, like, no, I'm done. Like, my head is really like throbbing. I just remember taking my pads off, and I got them, like, pads right to the top of my head, and then I don't remember anything after that, and then I just remember waking up in the ICU. So.
Wow. And, I know it was really touch and go, and, you had the support of a lot of people behind you and the doctors there, and, how are you doing today? I mean, you're sitting here talking to us.
Yeah, so I actually just got back from PT. I'm doing really well. I couldn't thank God enough. I couldn't thank the Dubuque community for praying for me, and honestly, everybody praying for me. It's really helped me a lot, and God honestly was with me, and I'm doing better than everybody thought I would be right now.
I know everybody was just amazed to see you on a video on Facebook setting up, talking to people, and the students were really behind you. I know they met at Blades Chapel and, throughout where they could be to support you in that way. But, back just last Saturday, I mean, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before that, you're actually walking out with your teammates out to toss the coin and call the toss. What an unbelievable feeling that must have been.
Yeah, it was pretty emotional to be out there with my guys and for them to allow me to take one of their places and walk out on the field and be in the coin toss. That was very emotional for me, and it was kind of a surreal experience.
I'm sure it was what a emotional thing for the players and a real booster I told Coach Myeri, man, if I saw my teammate come and talk to me and was out there, I'd pretty much run through a brick wall. And it was great to be able to be supportive of those guys, and it sounds like that's what you've been able to do since then.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that Coach Myeri and Coach Edwards has allowed me to kind of replace my role instead of being a football player, kind of step in and be a coach and allow me to spread my knowledge to our football players currently, and I can't thank them enough for that.
What have the doctors said about your recovery journey for you?
So right now they advised I should never play football again. However, they said if I wanted to, I could. So it's kind of up in the air, but right now it's kind of like a 3-month recovery process to be 100%. But each and every day I'm kind of getting better and better and better, which is kind of mind-blowing them. But just kind of taking it day by day and just being thankful to God for realizing that every day one thing that was currently wrong is just getting better. Just glad to be here.
Let's talk about you as a student here at the University of Dubuque. You're in the aviation department, right?
Yes, sir.
So talk about that journey.
So the journey here has been amazing. The aviation program here is outstanding. I love it. I was currently working on my commercial license. So right now I was doing a lot of flying, not a lot of ground school. I actually did the ground school for this rating over the summer. So I kind of just got to relax and do all the flying. However, with this injury, I got to get my medical renewed. There's going to be a long process. And in 6 months, I get a new CT scan of my brain just to make sure that I'm really not bleeding anymore, that I've healed. So flying is going to kind of take a little backseat right now. So I'm just trying to do everything I can to get all my papers in order and paperwork ready for when that time comes for my medical. I can make sure I pass.
Well, that's awesome. Definitely awesome to see. Now, you're from Chandler, Arizona, right?
Yes, sir.
You came to Dubuque, Iowa. You realize what the winters were like here, right?
I actually, so last winter, I went snowboarding. I like to snowboard in Arizona too. So this is kind of, I don't want to say familiar, like cold.
Where do you snowboard in Arizona?
So Flagstaff, Arizona, about 2 hours north of us. We
Okay.
go up there. They got like a 14,000-foot mountain that my brother and I go snowboarding on.
Wow, that's awesome. So you adapted right away then.
Oh, 100%. I love the cold out here. I think it's so beautiful.
That's awesome. University of Dubuque obviously is supporting you, and I'm just going to throw this right now. I know there's a lot of financial expenses, that kind of thing. I know there's a GoFundMe page that was set up for you, so I'm just going to throw that out there that if you want to help out Blake in his recovery, the family would appreciate it. There's a lot of expenses, that kind of thing. So, check it out on GoFundMe.com. And Blake, was there anything else you wanted to add before we let you go here?
Thank everybody who's been donating to the GoFundMe. And if you haven't, thank you for your prayers. I couldn't thank you guys enough. I wouldn't be here without it. So I'm really blessed.
All right. Well, you're quite a young man. Thanks a lot for coming on here and telling your story. And good luck to you. Whatever's next here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. That's Blake Heffernan, University of Dubuque Spartan, joining us here on the UD Football Show. That's going to wrap up our program for this evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we invite you to tune in again Saturday, 2 o'clock kickoff as the Spartans take on the Buena Vista Beavers, and then be back here next Monday evening at 5 for the UD Football Show with Coach Myeri. So from Chalmers Field for the UD Football Show, I'm Tim Larry.